If you're looking for a training or workshop right now, here's something to think about before you start comparing options. So, I get a lot of requests for workshops, sessions, and they usually start the same way. And they fill out a form. And so I reply back, but it's always asking, can you send pricing? And then it might go into, can you send a sample agenda? And my response is always, hey, let's hop on a quick call. Let's jump on Zoom. I really want to understand what's going on, what it is they're really looking to get out of this session. And because number one, every session, whether it's a workshop, quarterly, offsite, I believe should be tailored to what the team actually needs. They're putting a lot of time and effort coming into these workshops. But sometimes what happens, it stays over email. And I just had this happen recently, going against everything I say I would do. And it was a request for a working genius workshop, either half day or full day. And we went back and forth a bit. And I offered every time we were going back and forth to connect, just jump on a call. How I just want to go over a few things, what it is the leadership team's wanting, just to get a better understanding of what they needed. Because even with something like that, how it's applied really depends on what the team is dealing with and what they're working through. But instead, the focus stayed on gathering more information, the agenda, the pricing, whether travel was involved. Trust me, I completely understand that budget matters. And lots of times this is happening in the early stages when information is still being gathered. Understandable, right? But that's also where some of the most important context can get missed. And that's one thing I'm always searching for is the context and what's behind it. So when the conversation stays at that level and the problem hasn't been clearly defined, price becomes the earliest thing to compare, right? Happened, does happen. And that's where it can turn into price shopping. And then we're not focused on the intentionality of what we're trying to get out of the workshop. But because there's nothing else clearly enough to evaluate, like comparison, at that point, everything can start looking familiar on paper. And then we're looking at the price. And even though that's actually needed, might be very different. So before you evaluate options, it's worth taking a step back and asking what's happening on our team right now? Where are things getting struck? What would you want to see different after the session? What is that desired outcome and measurable? And how would you know it actually worked? What would success look like when we are done? Ideally, those kinds of questions really should be explored before anything is designed for any workshop. And that's usually what happens in those conversations, not just over email. So the sessions can actually be tailored to what the teams actually need. So you might ask for a sample agenda, absolutely, which can be helpful to get a general sense of the flow. But sometimes the most effective sessions, they're not a one size fits all. I know at least my sessions are not. So they're shaped around what the team is actually working through and the conversations that need to happen. So, because a workshop isn't really an event on its own, it's part of a larger process. It is truly a journey and should be looked upon as strategically how are we planning for this? And the impact comes from how it's number one, applied, how it's reinforced and carried forward in the work. So when you start with clarity on the problem and the outcome, you not just comparing options, you're making a much more informed decision about what will actually move things forward. So that is my suggestion. If you're looking for a workshop or a training, any kind of offsite, anything happening now, make sure if you are comparing prices and you have a budget, that is fine, but making sure that you know what outcome you're wanting and that who you're selecting, look at what they're going to give you outside of that. So that's one of my biggest suggestions if you're looking for it, to take the time, step back to know what you're wanting. All right, good luck as you're searching for your workshop or your next session.